we're going to look at some books that I am putting out in Little Free Libraries. We'll start off with books that I have read that I do not want to keep. And then we'll go into some books that I maybe read a little bit of but didn't finish. And books that I was like, this is not for me. All or most of these books I either rescued from the paper shredder or got in a Little Free Library. We'll start off with a book that I finished reading. Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. This took me a very long time to read. It's a very thick, long book written a very long time ago. It's 807 pages long. The back is come off, and this is a very old version, and it smells like mold and mildew, so maybe not good for people to be breathing in. But let's see. Here's a drawing of the author, Leo Tolstoy. I have not read any other books of his. Found this, I think I rescued this one from the library and was like, guess it's time for me to read Anna Karenina. Very interesting book. A little dry in some areas, but I read it. And this edition of the book, and it also, when you touch it, like some of the ink comes off, was published through a Signet Classic, published by the New American Library in 1961. But this is the 4th printing of the book, because I believe this book was published originally in 1877. So, what does the fallen off back cover say? It says, Tolstoy's genius for viewing social classes in the largest possible context and for sketching the subtlest human gestures becomes most evident in Anna Karenina. To this novel, he brought his troubling conviction that at his moments of most intense experience, man is closest to death. This is the double drama of Anna and of Levin. Sensual, rebellious, Anna renounces respectable marriage and fine position for her passionate involvement, which offers a taste of freedom and a trap for destruction. Levin, an eccentric and melancholy young nobleman, surrenders his individuality to live as a peasant. Anna Karenina, to be found in a Little Free Library, maybe near you. Who's next? This book I also rescued from the same library. It's a graphic novel. Got some good crinkly sounds. I need to move Anna Karenina, the smell is not good. This book is Chicken with Plums by Marjane Satrapi, published by Pantheon Publishers. And Chicken with Plums was published. Well, it was originally published in 2004, but the translation copyright for this English edition by Anjali Singh was in 2006. This is the author, Marjan Satrapi. She's an Iranian author. And let's read a little bit about this book. In her acclaimed Persepolis books and in embroideries, Marjan Satrapi rendered the events of her life and times in a uniquely captivating and powerful voice and vision. Now she turns that same keen eye and ear to the heart-trending story of her great uncle, a celebrated Iranian musician who gave up his life for music and love. And this book takes place in Tehran in 1958. And the main character is Nasser Ali Khan, one of Iran's most revered tar players, who discovers that his beloved instrument is irreparably damaged. I read this in an hour or a couple hours. It was interesting. Could be of interest if you like graphic novels and are interested in Iranian perspectives or Iranian family histories. The next book is, I did not like this book, but I learned from it. It's called How Democracies Die, and it's written by Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblot. Here's their photos. And I checked on Google Scholar how many citations this book has. Like how many people have cited this work. It's a nonfiction book. Like over 2,000 people have cited this book. I think that they're missing a lot of perspectives. However, a lot of what they wrote about is happening right now. And this book was originally published by Crown Publishers in 2018, so not 10 years ago. In my previous video, I talked about an abolitionist book that I really love, and this book is definitely missing out on some really critical perspectives. But if you're looking for some perspectives into what's going on in the US government right now, this book might have some perspectives, which is why I kept reading it, even though I really didn't like the book. So, How Democracies Die. Next book, oh, I rescued that one also from the library. The next book I also rescued from this library who was going to send these to the paper shredder. This is a book by Khalil Gibran. And it's called Spirits Rebellious. This is also a very old book, both in its original publishing, but also in the book itself. I've read The Prophet before, also a book that I found in a little free library. And I liked this one because it felt relevant for today. So this edition of the book was translated from the Arabic by Anthony Rizkallah Ferris, and it's published by the Wisdom Library, which is a division of Philosophical Library. And the book was published in 1947. 1947. And for the third story in this book, or the third parable or philosophy, it's called Khalil the Heretic. And we can see why this book was banned. In the editor's preface, it says, soon after publication of the original Arabic of Spirits Rebellious, at the turn of the century, considerable agitation and intrigue developed. The book was publicly burned in Beirut in the Beirut marketplace by furious church and state officials who adjudged it poisonous and fiercely dangerous to the peace of the country. Does that sound familiar? Lebanon was then suffering virtual slavery under oppressive Turkish rule. Gibran's bitter denunciation of both religious and political injustice prevailing at the time brought also his anticipated exile from the country and excommunication from the church, although his parents were staunch Maronites. It was the story, Khalil the Heretic in particular, which drove the Sultan and his emirs into trepidation and caused nervous authorities in the entire Middle and Near East to examine into their governments. So while this is a quote-unquote outdated book, once again, oftentimes, we can learn from history, and from histories that might be similar to or different from our own. So I would recommend, if you find a copy of this at your library, whether it's a public library, academic library, or a little free library, you pick up Spirits Rebellious by Khalil Gibran. Next book. I loved this book. This is more like a zine, and it's not what you might think based on the cover. This book/zine is called Tip of the Iceberg, and it's by Laura, I'm going to mispronounce this, Zumowski. And this was published in 2007. What do you think this book is about? It's not about an iceberg. This book I also rescued from that library. Finished it in like a day, not even. And Laura Suzamowski wrote, compiled, and illustrated this book/zine. And this book is self-published. Let's see. This book is really all about certain organs in certain bodies that have been marginalized for far too long. It's about destigmatizing something that has been very stigmatized in our society. And it's a very cute little book. and very informative, although maybe not as gender inclusive as it could be. Tip of the iceberg. Another book that took me a very long time to finish, that I found in a little free library in the previous place that I was living. I was very excited when I found this book. This is called Debating Race, Ethnicity, and Latino Identity. And it's a compilation of works by Jorge J.E. Gracia and his critics, and it's edited by Ivan Jaksic. This is published by Columbia University Press. And this was, at the time, one of the first books that I found in a little free library that seemed to be related to an aspect of my Latina identity. So I was very excited. But it was really not about identity, it was more about philosophy, so I didn't get as much as I would have wanted from this. But it was published 10 years ago, in 2015. For some reason, I thought this was published much earlier. I recently finished this book, and it took me years to finish it because it was dry. Let's see, what is this book about? The philosopher Jorge J.E. Gracia engages 15 prominent scholars on race, ethnicity, nationality, and Hispanic/Latino identity in the United States. Their discussion joins two distinct traditions: the philosophy of race begun by African Americans in the 19th century, and the search for an understanding of identity initiated by Latin American philosophers in the 16th century. Participants include Linda M. Alcoff, K. Anthony Appiah, Richard L. Bernstein, Lawrence Blum, Robert Gooding Williams, Eduardo Mendieta, and Lucius T. Outlaw Jr., and their dialogue reflects the analytic, Aristotelian, continental, literary, Marxist, and pragmatic schools of thought. I don't really remember much Marxism when I read this. I don't know. I don't know if I would recommend this book. It's quite outdated. It's also more about philosophy than actually looking into the complexities of Latina identity or Latinidad. But I felt really happy when I found this in a little free library, which means representation matters. Okay, now the last book. Just finished reading this today. I started reading this book a couple years ago at a friend's house, then found this also rescued from the library. And listened to, before I even knew about this book's existence, listened to a podcast episode with Claudia Rankin on being. So I've heard about Claudia's work. This is Citizen, an American lyric. It's kind of like somewhere in between a poem, essays, nonfiction, fiction. It's a National Book Award finalist, and it's published by Grey Wolf Press, which I believe is a publisher I've been wanting to look more into. And this book was published, let's see, in 2014. And the first quote of this book is, "If they don't see happiness in the picture, at least they'll see the black." Chris Marker, Sans Soleil. Let's see what the back of this book says. I highly recommend Claudia Rankine for those who aren't familiar with her work. She explores race and racism in the US. From Hilton Alls says, Claudia Rankine's Citizen comes at you like doom. It's the best note in the wrong song that is America. Its various realities, mistaken identity, social racism, the whole fabric of urban and suburban life are almost too much to bear, but you bear them because it's the truth. Citizen is Rankine's Spoon River anthology, an epic as large and frightening and beautiful as the country and various emotional states that produced it. And something I like about this book is that there's also artwork and images, and the text on the pages is quite short, and it's a heavy book. And I have her 2020 book to read next, which is called Just Us. It's the third one in this series. I started to read it today, but it was a little bit more non-fiction-y than I wanted. I'm sure I'll make a video with that book soon. Citizen, another very important book to help us make sense of the world that we live in and what we can do about it. I'll stop here for now. Happy reading.